Oh, arise, O you sons of this land. Let us sing of our joy to be free. For action? Yes! Oh no! Action! Oh no!
The Japanese objective was to seize the capital, Port Moresby, overland from the north coast, following the Kokoda Track, to isolate Australia from US support and then mount an invasion of Australia from the north. Japanese forces established beachheads on the north coast in July 1942 and quickly captured Kokoda and its strategically vital airfield.
Day 1, Kokoda to Ishirava via Dunedin. After a hearty breakfast at the 5-star Stanley Hotel in Port Moresby, the 50th Company was transported to the local airstrip where, to the concern of the pilot of their chartered Twin Otter, a few members tipped the scales well beyond the 100-kilogram mark at the pre-flight weigh-in.
You all ready to go, guys?
Well, you've got to dress for the occasion. I'll tell you what, I won't look like this at the end.
I'm so worried about him coming back with this.
Borrowing from ABC war correspondent Chester Wilmot, as we flew from Port Moresby to Kokoda in a small plane, all we could see was a blanket of dark green treetops, broken only here and there by the white waters of the turbulent creeks at the bottom. The valleys were almost as deep as they were wide, and their sides swept up from the creek beds steeply. Somewhere under those treetops wound the track, which leads from Kokoda over the range to Port Moresby. Now, under those treetops, in the dark, damp forest, there were no Australian or Japanese troops fighting desperately for the possession of the track. But our nervous apprehension and anticipation for what lay ahead was no less real.
After a stunning flight over and through the Owen Stanley Range, the company disembarked at Kokoda Airstrip, where they were met by Papuan Commander Captain Silas.
What about it?
Oh, we've already had one. I'm coming in for an extra one.
Silas Michael. Nice to meet you.
We arrive at the village of Kokoda, which sits on a plateau in the Owen Stanley Range. It was the key strategic possession for both the Australian and Japanese forces, with the only airfield within 4 days' march in any direction.
They get a bit confused and mixed up, so it's easier if I...
Captain Silas assigned each member of the company a personal Papuan guide.
All ready? Yes! Ready for action? Yes! Oh no! Action! Oh no! Action! Oh no! Action!
After a pre-trek briefing from Commander Gardam, the company set out across very exposed terrain in searing heat in the direction of Dunedin.
The young men of the 39th Battalion, Victorians like many of us, were the first Australian troops to set off on the Kokoda Track. The 39th were a militia battalion, not regular army, with little training and no real fighting experience.
Flat piece of ground here in the gang. Day 1, everyone's looking pretty fresh.
Yeah, we are. We're fresh.
Everyone's looking very fresh. Sando's looking very fresh, day 1.
Here the reality hits. A very steep ascent in the heat of the day to Dunedin.
Where are we at?
I'm off the Kokoda Valley.
Got a bit more uphill to do.
Only seasoned men of robust bodily fitness could be depended on to endure the rigours of even a few days marching and fighting in these latitudes, where the moist heat hangs like an oppressive curtain and makes strenuous exertion for more than a few hours intolerable.
4 o'clock.
The company was very nearly reduced by 2 within a couple of hours when first Sister Galanos and then Signalman Hudson became severely affected by heat stroke.
The Japanese, by contrast, were all regulars, fully trained and equipped for the operations, whilst our troops would consist mainly of civilians, hastily thrown together on mobilisation, with very little training, short of artillery and ammunition. But the Australians had one thing that the Japanese did not: the spirit which has made Australia. It isn't tradition or nationalism or social revolution. Henry Lawson called it mateship. By sticking together, men have defied drought, bushfire and flood.
Already. I've filled up. I've filled up that water bottle again with river water. I haven't put electrolytes in.
Oh, look at that.
Going to drink water.
The welcome site.
Yeah.
Thanks.
How are you faring?
There's plantain.
I'm a bit like you. I'm soaked. And I was always going. Yeah, I'm the same.
Really Smarties.
Blessed relief after Daniki with the shade of the canopy overhead. Late afternoon tropical rain, a portent of things to come.
After ascending 1,000 metres, however, conditions for trekking improved somewhat, before deteriorating again as the rain set in and darkness fell. Muddied and exhausted, guided by beams of head torches of varying quality, the company skidded and bum-slid down the embankment and into camp at Isarava in pitch darkness.
It's a good shot, Sandro.
We'll see. We'll see. Too busy trying to stay upright.
Our biggest day over, nearly 19 kilometres behind us. Over 1,200 vertical metres up and another 300 down in temperatures pushing 35 degrees.
Signaller Hudson subsequently fell into unconsciousness in his sodden tent, foregoing dinner in preference of a well-earned sleep, whilst Gunnery Sergeant Carrick, battling his own fatigue, was heard to mutter, "What have I gotten Sean into? Connie's going to kill me."